Everybody, and welcome to On the Move. This is TMSA's new podcast. It's our second episode. So if you haven't checked out the first one, it was with Beth Malik, who is our incoming TMSA president. You can check those out on LinkedIn, YouTube, or any of the places that you find your podcast, which is really exciting. But even more exciting, today I am here with Holly LaBoda, and she is a co-founder of the Luminaries Consulting, but she's also TMSA Education Committee Co-Chair. And so today we're here to talk about all things Elevate in our educational lineup because we're really proud of it and excited to talk about it. So thank you for coming on the show today, Holly.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here. It's always fun to talk TMSA, but I'm so excited in particular to talk about Elevate because it's going to be awesome this year.
Yay! So I would love to know, well, I kind of know your story because I was with you in the education committee, but I'm curious how you found your way into volunteering for TMSA and what about the educational lineup really spoke to you and how did you then become co-chair?
Yeah. So I joined TMSA about like in 2019, I think, pretty quickly after I launched my business. And I heard from kind of people in my network that I trusted that like, hey, you got to start joining this group. It's connected to all the people that you want to connect with. So kind of get in and experience that. So I went to my first conference and I learned really quickly that if I really wanted to make the most out of my time that I was spending with TMSA, that getting on a committee was the way to do it because there's so much networking that happens when you're in those committee workshops. Like I have made great friends over the last couple of years and lots of them have turned into clients and that kind of thing too. So definitely worth it to get on those committees. And in particular, I'm just passionate about education in general as part of what I do for my day job. And just kind of having a voice in that helps me just give back in a way that I know how, have the connections and build a network, and then just make sure that like what we're doing is great content for TMSA and for all the people who attend everything.
I love that. And I really think you've done an excellent job, especially making sure that our content is applicable for both marketing and salespeople, which is part of who we are, and making sure that what we do is for everybody that could be coming and wanting to learn how to be the best sales or marketing person they can be. A question that I get asked pretty often is how I select the speakers, which I'm like, I actually have very little say in that. And not because I don't pay attention to trends or what people could like, but I want it to be based on the voice and opinions of our members. So the education committee is made up of sales and marketing professionals in the space. Yeah. And they pay attention and they rank the submissions that we have in for the call. But I want you to talk about that a little bit more because I stay out of it, because as the executive director of TMSA, as somebody who sells sponsorships and works with our partners, like I don't want to play favorites and really want to make sure that we're putting the best education that we can out that. So I leave that in the hands of you and Gary Cornelius, your co-chair, and the committee. So can you talk about that process a little bit more? And if people are interested in speaking in the future, like what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah. So really all the like lifting when it comes to determining what content goes into not just Elevate, but also the executive summit, into our webinars and virtual events, into everything educational that TMSA does, comes from two places. Our membership base in general. So we kind of reach out to the membership base, even reach out to people who are thinking about being members, past members, and say, what do you want to learn right now? What's kind of like interesting to you? What are you curious about? What would help you do your job better? And then we get all kinds of submissions. And then the other piece of it is the education committee who looks through all of that stuff and says, yes, this is something that really makes sense for this event or this event. Here's somebody who would speak really well to that, or that is also part of the kind of solicitation process. And then we kind of go through it and make sure that we figure out what are the things that are most impactful right now, and what is the best forum in which to offer that piece of content. So membership base and the education committee are really the ones that are making all those decisions.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of information do you like in those call for speaker submissions? Like what is something that stands out if people are looking to speak at TMSA?
You know, we like a lot of variety of content, but really we look for kind of things that are really timely and relevant to right now, kind of unique topics. There are some topics that are like kind of evergreen topics that people always want to learn about: new sales strategies, marketing and sales alignment, content development, digital marketing. Those are always things that are changing, that are new, that people are interested in. But there's always like timely things, like we have a tough market right now. What's going on there? There's new changes in terms of like sustainability expectations. Let's make sure we're talking about that. So we make sure that things are kind of really relevant to now. And then we also look for like either really relevant, or if it's one of those evergreen topics, do you have a unique approach or an angle on it? What makes your perspective interesting, or what maybe about your approach or your way of talking about that might be really engaging and insightful to our audience? So we kind of look at those couple of different angles.
Awesome. What can people expect from the educational lineup this year at Elevate?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be such a fun one. I will say, I was talking about kind of how we get all of the ideas or original submissions from the membership base, from people who want to speak or people who just want to learn about something in particular. And then the education committee goes through it. We changed our process this year to make that a little bit more streamlined. We had kind of this voting and ranking system and that kind of thing. But man, was it hard to figure out what really made it into Elevate. And some of the things that are great submissions were like, yes, this is a great piece of content, but it's probably more of a fit for the executive summit, for example. So that was part of it. But the things that made it in are just so, it's going to be such an awesome lineup. So I apologize in advance for anybody who is attending Elevate, because it's going to be really hard for you to pick what kind of breakouts you're going to. But that means that we did our job well, because there's a really great lineup. But we've got a lot of kind of people that have spoken before who are bringing kind of a great perspective and a different angle, but we've got a lot of new faces and new content too, and some super, super timely, really relevant things that, like, if you're not worried about them, you probably should be, and you want to come to Elevate to learn more.
Yes. And one thing that I hope people know too is, although it is hard to pick between your breakout sessions, we do post the slides to the breakout sessions in our member portal. So one of your member perks is that you actually get to see those slides whenever you want to. So, and maybe there's something from last year that you're like, oh, I want a refresher on that topic. That's one of the member perks, is to be able to go into the member portal and see those slides. And I think that's something that not everybody knows about. So I thought I would share that. I am really excited for this speaker lineup as well. And we've kind of played around a little bit with our programming in the sense that we have some different time frames of the sessions, and seeing what resonates that way. But one thing that we changed last year was adding a shipper focus to our events. And we had a shipper panel last year at Elevate. We had a fireside chat with the shipper at Executive Summit. We did that local event with you in Minnesota that had a shipper panel was that 2020, end of 2022? That seems like it was like yesterday, but I think it was the end of 2022. But I find that that focus on the shipper is really important, and we have found really great engagement with those sessions. Why do you think that is? And if people have attended the shippers event that we did last year, how is this year going to be a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, the shipper panel, and any kind of time we could pull in a shipper perspective in any of the ways that you're talking about, is always, we get such good feedback on it because it's so insightful to our audience. So people that attend Elevate are marketing people, salespeople, account managers, or both, like commercial leadership or organizational leadership of some kind. So when you're in one of those roles, your job is to think about, who am I trying to sell to? Whose attention am I trying to get, or how am I trying to bring them into my business, or how am I trying to keep those particular customers on board? So where better to kind of sharpen your saw than to hear it directly from like examples of your customer base. So we are really thoughtful with how we pull like what kinds of shippers in, and make sure we set it up for them to really safely share real insights about their business, what they want to hear, what's valuable to them, what they hate when people reach out to them about. So there's just so much real practical kind of insights and discussion that come from that. I know, like, looking around the room as that was going last year, like everybody's taking notes, everybody's writing things down, everybody's using them as they go forward. It's real practical stuff that you can apply right now and in the future as you go forward.
And can we give an exclusive announcement of who the shippers are going to be this year?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So we've been working really hard to get a great lineup. It is tricky sometimes to pull shippers into this because, like, think about it. Like, we could be feeding them to the wolves. Like, here's a whole group of logistics folks. Like, come talk about what you want, and then like see if they'll sell you. But our members are so great. Last year, the shippers panel, like, people stayed, people were engaged. None of them were like beaten over the head with like sales pitches or anything like that. So we've gotten a couple of really great people to sign up. So I'm so excited to officially announce that 2 of the companies that will be on our panel, there'll probably be a third coming soon, are big names. We're going to have somebody from Wayfair and somebody from PriceSmart. So think about if you are doing anything in any category that's related to those kind of businesses, like, you want to hear what PriceSmart and Wayfair have to say about how they want to be engaged by logistics providers.
Absolutely. So excited. I've had people ask me who the shippers are going to be. And I said, although we have a cute little asterisk on the event page that says, things subject to change, like, definitely the shippers panel is not one that I want to take back. So we really waited to announce those till we were absolutely sure that they were locked in. So excited for those. Those are really big names. I'm excited to hear what they're going to say and talk about. One of the other big topics that people are talking about right now is just the economy and how things are and where we're going. And we've had an economy speaker in the past on and off. It's not something that we always do, but this year we've decided to do something a little bit different and actually do an economist panel with 3 economists from the industry coming in. What different having those different perspectives, how do you think that's going to be different than one of those, like, here are all of my charts and my ideas of what's to come next?
Yeah, I'm so happy we're doing a panel because I think it will be really interesting to kind of hear the different perspectives. Because if you think about usually what you hear when an economist talks to you, they're looking at either kind of what's happened in the past or what indicators might give them some kind of indication of what might happen in the future. So past perspective or like current state things, and kind of interpreting both of those to what might happen coming up. So because it's about interpretation, like, you can have so many different reads of the same data set. So that's why it's really interesting to think about, or I'm really excited about the economist panel, because you're probably going to have lots of different perspectives on the same or similar kind of data. And it's all a prediction. It's all to like finger in the air to some extent. But it's really smart people giving really smart perspectives that we all can think about. Not just, okay, great, that might be what happens maybe with the economy in the next, couple of months or whatever that looks like, but what can I do to set my business up for success if this happens or doesn't happen? That's the part that we want to make sure that our audience is prepared to take away from that. So we'll be steering that panel discussion in that way. So not just kind of what do you think, but what can people do, or what should people be thinking about, or what should people be preparing for to take advantage of that?
I'm really excited too because it's a little bit more engaging, I think, that way. I'll be honest, sometimes during those economy sessions, I get very overwhelmed with all of the information. And like you said, like, okay, but what does that mean for me? Like, what am I supposed to do with that information? So I'm really excited to have the 3 different perspectives up there, to be asking them questions like, okay, and then now what? Like, now where do we go? What do we do? So I'm pretty excited about that. And excited that they're coming in and sharing those perspectives, and kind of some of them are staying through parts of the show as well. So being able to, hang out with them and get their perspectives on those things too. One of the other changes that we're doing this year which is something I'm really pumped about, but we're doing some 15-minute sessions. And so they are kind of powerful stories, people taking the stage, no slides, no fuss, just getting to the heart of a story or a heart of an issue. For instance, Cassandra Gaines is taking the stage and she's talking about freight fraud, but how sales and marketing people can really relay what's going on and what their companies are doing and being able to tackle all of that practically. We have Deanna Set from FedEx talking about a 17-year career at a company like FedEx, a huge name in the industry, and what that looks like for her. I'm really, really excited about this because I do think it's important as an event planner to really think through how we're presenting information, how we're presenting education, and how people are receiving that. So one of the things I'm really proud of for the education committee is that they do tackle so many different types of content. We have a keynote speaker. His name is Ty Bennett. He's talking about the power of storytelling. Really excited for that presentation. But we also have these panels of experts coming. We have these quick hitters coming in and telling really powerful information quickly and then moving on to the next thing. And then we have these deep dive breakout sessions. And I think that culmination is really important. And then hearing from the members and the audience, what is resonating? How do you like to receive your information? What can we do better? But I know I pitched the 15-minute idea to you guys, but what is appealing about it to you? Because I love it because it's quick, fast, and it can break up some of those like meaty panels. But is there anything that you're really excited about for those?
Yeah, I mean, I love it for that, all those reasons that you mentioned, especially that last underline there. But two other reasons that I think those are going to be really great this year is one, that keynote that we're starting with Ty Bennett talking about storytelling. That's such kind of a powerful, important message, and people will notice, and I hope feel when they go to the conference, that really is a thread that's being woven throughout the whole agenda. And storytelling is super important because, part of what I do is I help, salespeople and account managers be more effective in their jobs, but people respond to stories. They remember them, they make emotional connections with people. So stories, like when it comes to kind of receiving information and learning, stories are super powerful. So I think those sessions in themselves are really powerful, but then like take that piece and then also think about like all of the attendees learning to harness the power of their own storytelling is so powerful when it comes to kind of making connections with customers, getting them to buy into what you're saying. So you can learn like not just from the content, but how to tell a great story and apply that to what you do in a marketing and a sales kind of perspective. And the other part of it that I think is really exciting is there are so many talented people, great stories like within our membership base and beyond. And it is impossible to get everybody on the stage. So I think kind of breaking that up a little bit into these little snippets and not just like amount of people that you're hearing from, but also like not everybody wants to get on stage and do an hour panel or a 30-minute breakout. And not everybody wants to hear people do it that way. So getting more perspectives in a way that people might like doing it and people might like receiving it that way, I think is really powerful too.
I agree. Those are great points. And I'd be remiss to say that TMSA doesn't have its own story to tell at this year's Elevate because we are celebrating 100 years of serving the transportation and logistics industry. And while it's not going to be all about TMSA and our own history, there will definitely be pieces of the TMSA story woven in throughout the conference. And I'm really, really, really excited to show everybody those pieces because we've been working very hard on them. So I hope everybody likes them. But what are you most looking forward to at the show this year?
Gosh, that's a hard one. I thought about that one. I think every year I look forward to the networking so much because I've made real friends. I've made great business partners. I meet lots of new people that I learn from at these conferences. So I'm always looking forward to the networking piece of it, reconnecting with old friends, old network, and then also kind of building new. But I am super, super excited about the content lineup this year. I'm so excited to kind of learn some different things. And I'm really jacked about a lot of the fun stuff like that we're doing along the way. Some of the ways to like celebrate the 100 years, to kind of experience New Orleans. So you asked for one, I gave you three. I'm a cheater.
Yeah, there's a lot. We definitely try to have a really awesome education content, and that's where you guys really work hard, and then us at headquarter level work to make sure that we have fun too. And so marrying those things together has been really fun, and I can't wait. I can't believe it's like 5 weeks away at this point, which seems so soon, but I'm really excited to present all that. Is there anything that you wish people knew about the show ahead of time if they haven't attended before?
Yeah, I think that so if you are out there in the conference world, in logistics or other kinds of conferences, industry conferences, your customers' industries, whatever, you might have a certain kind of idea in your head when you think about like what a conference looks like if you haven't been to one before. And certainly TMSA has elements of that. There's networking, there's great people to work with, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of great content. But I think the thing that makes the TMSA events, in particular Elevate, really unique is that it is much more kind of like small and like almost feels family-esque, like very
Mhm.
welcoming. I know my first very conference, it was like my very first conference I ever did after leaving like the big company I worked for and kind of starting Luminaries. And I was a little intimidated walking into it. I'm not like the most extroverted person in the world, but like the folks at Elevate really kind of just like welcome you in. It's not intimidating. It's not, your group of 2,500 conference attendees where you have
Mhm.
friends and you literally never see them the whole time. Like you will have a chance to get to know everybody. You will be welcomed in. And if you're not, like, come find me or come find Jen and we'll help you get there. We'll help you introduce you to the people that you want to meet and make sure you get what you want to get out of it.
Absolutely. And I think part of what we try to do on that opening day too is to facilitate some of that like awkwardness out.
Yeah.
So we actually started a newcomers reception last year, and we're perfecting on it this year because the turnout we had last year was like admittedly like way more people than we thought were going to show up. So we were a little overwhelmed, and so we're better executing it this year. But part of that is because I've gone to those at other events, and this isn't talking poorly at other events. Everything I love going to industry events, but it's always like, oh, here's the newcomer reception. Come have a drink with a bunch of people you don't know, which is terrifying if you don't know anyone. But with us, we try to then have you connect. Like if you are a member of TMSA, you have a membership committee owner, like people who work with you and are your kind of liaison through TMSA, and you'll be able to meet those people in person. And we have activities to do to kind of break the ice for you so that it's not just you having to go to a table and be like, hi, my name is Jen. Can we please
Right.
talk? Because that can be so awkward. And then right after that, we have our community give back, which we're partnering with the Covenant House in New Orleans this year. And we do things for a local community group. So action based. And I'm excited to say that this year, the Covenant House, they will actually have somebody coming with us and talking about what the Covenant House does and why, how we're contributing to them matters. And we did a like holiday gift drive with them over the holidays. And like, it's been a really great partnership. I'm excited for attendees to be a part of that when we're there. And then, of course, we then go into the opening cocktail reception, which is then hopefully by that point, you've at least meted and greeted some people in a more organic way that you can then talk to. And then if not, we're at least ending the cocktail reception this year with a second line. So we will be parading through the streets of New Orleans on Sunday night to celebrate our kickoff there. So I'm really excited for all of those things. And that is something that we are really cognizant of. If this is your first industry event, or if you're not, like I'm best when I have one person that I know. Like that's where like my if I have one safety net, but going in alone can be really hard. And so we try to kind of make that easier for people. And
Right, because the networking is
yeah.
such a big part of what you get out of these conferences. So if you're feeling like you can't get there or you can't get there for a decent part of the conference, you're just not getting the return that you want. So if we can streamline that for folks a little bit, you're going to get more out of it.
Absolutely. And then one other thing that we're launching this year is called our TMSA Wellness Room. And it is a space that you can go if you just need a moment to catch your breath or you need alone time, because networking is so important, but it can be overwhelming. And sometimes we just need like a soft, calm space to like step into for a minute, and just take that time so that we can reboot and then walk back out. And so we just really try to encourage people to engage in a way that's comfortable for them. And hopefully people aren't returning to their rooms to then having to do some of that stuff. So we're trying all kinds of new things and really excited about it. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that we want to talk about in Elevate?
Gosh, I feel like we covered a lot.
I know.
If we didn't talk about it all, I mean, if you haven't looked at the agenda, please go look at it. There's so much great stuff out there. And the thing that Jen and the headquarters team do such a great job of is making sure that they're really listening to the voices of the members and the participants. Obviously, in the creation of the agenda, that's what our like hardworking education committee does. But after the conference, like Jen and Tiffany and others will always make sure we're gathering feedback. Okay, what did you like this year? What should we change next year? And always kind of morphing, not just running the same play that we did last year just because.
Yes, we take about a week to sit in and not read all the feedback, but after that we really dive in because we take everything to heart. And I always do like a public ask. That's the last thing I say on stage is like, please actually fill out the survey. We really do want to hear from you and how we can improve. One thing I do want to note is we're talking about the breakout sessions and how those are a bit deeper dives, but we do try to do at least 3 breakouts per session, a marketing focus, a sales focus, and then a general focus. So we're kind of building to get those tracks in place. And so if you are like a sales side person or a marketing side person, or maybe you're an account manager, so you want to learn both, we try to really break that out so you have options that cater more to your role. So that's an evolution that's happening as well. So be paying attention to that.
Yeah, I would much rather have the problem of I can't decide what to go to than there's nothing that's happening right now that's relevant to me. So
Absolutely.
we always make sure that there's something happening that regardless of your role, for most people that are there, there's going to be something going on that you're going to want to tune into.
Mm-hmm. And it ranges, like some of those general sessions, like we have one with Eileen Dabrowski and Mark Dirks and Gary Cornelius that are like, hey, if you're newer in your career and want advice navigating, like here are 3 powerhouses that have been in the industry for a really long time, like ask them. And we're also trying to coordinate the way that you can ask anonymously, because like I'm sure that's also terrifying to like stand up and ask questions for some people, but that's just something like we do have a lot of people that come to TMSA for professional growth and to further their career, and they love logistics and how do you move forward. And that was just something that we really wanted to do because we heard that feedback. So we're continuing to evolve and change. So,
Yep.
Okay, last question for you. If you could go back in time, this is something I ask everyone. So it's not related to Elevate, it's just related to Holly. But if you could go back in time and advise a younger Holly, anything personally or professionally, when would you go back to and what would you tell her?
I was thinking about that one too. I think there's lots of different points and lots of different messages that would probably be helpful to younger Holly. But I was really thinking for the purposes of this conversation, like if I could go back to the beginning of my career in logistics, I joined a big logistics company years ago. And I would tell myself, like, be brave enough to be authentically you. And that probably could be a message I could have told myself in junior high and stuff like that too, like lots of different times. But I think especially because our industry has changed a lot over the last several years, but it's still like a fairly male dominated industry. There's, it's not the most diverse in the world, like that kind of thing. And it's like dynamic and challenging and that kind of stuff. But I think I kind of felt like I needed to play a certain role or fit a certain mold when I started. And, I still was myself enough and was effective and went far and that kind of a thing. But I think like all of us in all kinds of roles could benefit more if everybody was brave enough and felt like they were going to be accepted enough by showing up just authentically and vulnerably as they possibly can. So it's still something that I'm working on every day, but I think like I'll relate that back to Elevate for a second. Like I think compared to a lot of other conferences and in and outside of our industry, like there's so much room for people to show up and be authentically themselves at Elevate. And that is by design. That's super intentional in how we've set things up.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in registering for the show, I'm actually laughing because we've now made it like a half hour. Elevate is June 9th through 11th in New Orleans. In case you didn't know, we're so excited about it, but I realized we never actually said the dates. But June 11th, 9th through 11th in New Orleans. We have a lot of great stuff, a lot of great educational content. Thank you again to Holly and the education committee for all that they do there. One thing I also wanted to announce, in case people didn't know, we opened our Mountain Mover Award submissions on Monday. So if you know a sales leader or a marketing leader in the space that's really kicking butt, go ahead and nominate them, and they will be awarded at the Executive Summit, which is October 10th through 11th in Hoboken, New Jersey. So that is one thing we have going on. But yeah, we hope that everybody comes to Elevate and sees all the hard work, our hard work come to fruition at the show. So with that, thank you again for being on the move with us, Holly, and I will see you in New Orleans.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being here, everyone. See you there.